Sound. Oh, wait. Looks like maybe the sound might be live now. Maybe? Maybe? Let me know. At least we can read lips. You guys are awesome. I'm going to give it a minute because there's like a 10-20 second delay, so I'm not sure if you guys can hear my sound or not. But it looks like the sound's working on this end. Yay! Okay, sound. I need a drink. Hey, Fiberistas, welcome! I'm Stacy Budge Camison with UrbanGypZ. And we're going to do some live knitting. Weaving. Yay! Thanks for sticking with me. I'm so sorry. I would love to not be using Spectrum anymore. Yeah. Google Fiber, I think, is in the area, but not my neighborhood. So I might need to go pay them a visit. All right. So like I said, today I'm just going to do a weaving demonstration. 2 reasons. Because I had to do an extension on my taxes, and we just turned that in yesterday to the accountant. And I have not been weaving that much lately, and I just wanted to do some weaving, and so why not? I'm just going to do some weaving demo, but if you guys have any questions, then by all means, post them. I can see comments, and I'll answer questions, but I'm just going to work on this for a little while, and if you have any questions about what I'm working on, then hit me up. All right, I'm going to switch the camera so you can see the loom a little better as well as me. All right, there we have it. Yay! All right, so this is what I'm working on, and this was I'm gonna undo this a minute. This is my little samplet loom, and I love doing my art weaving. Most of my art weaving is done on this little samplet loom, just because it's so easy to work, and it warps up quickly, and textures really show up on this width really well. All right, so this, there's not much to this, but I tell you, this part here and this part here are the pieces that I demonstrated in the clasped wefts class. So I'm just taking this piece and I'm just going to continue to weave. I have no plan for this other than just to do some weaving and see what happens. So anyway, Stacy bunch of cameras. That is hilarious. Oh my goodness. I love it. All right. So I'm just gonna do a little weaving on this, and you'll just get to see how I pick my colors and my textures. But like I said, these 2 techniques are this and this are what you learn in the clasped wefts class, quite literally. And I'm just going to add on to this piece. I've got a ton of warp left and a bunch of yarn, and we're just going to get to work. All right, I'm going to check the comments though really quick. Yay, I'm so glad you guys can hear me. And like I said, thanks for being so patient, and hello to everybody. Wow, we've got a good crowd today. Okay, so here we are. Oh, wow, sorry about that. But that's just the way my day's been going. Okay, so here we've got this piece, and I'm working sideways, so I'm just going to try and get it to where you guys can see it a little bit. Right there. Okay, so I've got this hot pink color, I've got a little bit here, I've got a lot of green going on, but I also noticed that I need to tuck these ends back in, so I'm going to do that really quick. And I was on the up. And what I'm going to do is just tuck it around the end one, and tuck it back into my weaving. Oh, I'm going to have to go back through too. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to clip that because that's just how I roll. Okay, so I'm just going to clip that right there. And this one, I'm going to go around that end, warp yarn, and then back back through to here. All right. Okay. And you know what? I'm going to wait and clip that in later. Okay. So I've got this white and gray going on here. I've got this. But you know, when I was getting stuff together for when I was getting stuff together for this piece, I have all of this. I'm going to not these. I have all this white here. And what I was primarily looking at is these locks. Now, somebody gifted just enough of these locks, and I thought they were, I don't know if you guys can see, they are so shiny and silky and just gorgeous. And I want to include those into some of this weaving. But I don't want to put just those locks in. I also am going to use some of this not that thread, some of this yarn here for a base against these locks as I kind of tuck these locks in, and you'll see how I do that. But right now I don't want to put that right up against this piece here. I want to have something that's going to give a little transition, and I think I want to do, you know what, I'm going to go with this right here. Can you see that? Focus, there we go. This is a little hand spun. When I was doing my tricolor fin, doing a test spin of this, that's what this is. And so it's a nice thin yarn, but it matches with this a little bit. So I'm going to do this to give a little separation. All right. I'm going to check. What DPI? We are working on a 7.5 DPI, Sherry. I haven't bought a loom yet, but I'm trying. Yeah, girl, I get it. You know, a good place to buy looms, and I have an article, and I'll post that in the show notes. There's an article that I talk about buying used looms, and I noticed that somebody had a 10-inch samplet, or maybe it's a bigger one. It seems like it was a bigger one. It's more like a 15-inch. Maybe it's a 10-inch weaving width samplet for sale in the used stuff with a bunch of reeds, and it was a pretty good price for what you were getting. So anyway, but I'll post a link to the article I wrote about where to buy used looms, because you can get some good deals, and I see similar looms to this. Either the samplet or the cricket looms are both really, really good looms for this kind of weaving. And you can get some really good prices. And those looms are small enough where people will actually, they'll ship it a lot of times, because it's relatively easy to ship a loom this small. Anyway, what are you using for your warp? This warp is, Jenny, this is a Ashford samplet. It is I want to say it's considered the 10-inch loom, although I believe this weaving width is 8 inches. And the warp is a cotton cone yarn. Hold on, and I'll show you exactly what it is. I believe it's a mill end. You know what, if I can't put my hands on it in 2 seconds, I'm going to give up the ghost on that. Oh, here it is. Okay. All right, so this is the, I think this is what I warped it with. This is a cotton, this is a cotton, this might not be what I warped it with, but if not, it's something very similar. I get these mill ends from Earth Guild in Asheville. I used to walk in there on my lunch break when I used to work in downtown Asheville and pick these up. But you can find mill end cones sometimes online. And I know here in North Carolina I can find them in the thrift stores, because there's a huge fiber industry, textile industry here. So a lot of times those factories will put their cone yarns give them to the thrift stores. Okay. But I think any regular cotton, heck, you can sock yarn. I love warping with sock yarn, but this I just happened to use the cotton, and mostly the reason why I picked it is because I just needed something quick for demonstrating the technique for that clasped wefts. It's not a. I mean, cotton's great to warp with for this kind of thing, but sock yarn does great. Anything with a little bit of strength. I wouldn't go with like a single ply sock yarn. I think I went through stuff like this. I covered this in last week's video, and I'll put a link to that as well in the show notes. Okay, let me tighten this just a hair. Just one more notch. Okay, I'm just going to do a few. But you know what? I don't want this to be the same width as this or this. So I want it to be wider, because I think if I vary the widths up of these different sections, it keeps it from looking real stripy. So that's what I'm going to do here. All right. Let's see. I'm checking the things. What kind of loom? What are you using for warp? All right, I'll just cover that. I'm in Canada. It may not be easy to find one. Yeah, I'm not even sure. Earth Guild might have might sell their mill-in cone yarns, but if not, I mean, there's weaving yarns at Webs and Earth Guild, and like I said, I had a bunch of those links in the show notes for last week's live cast where I talked about yarn, and so I'll link that below, and you guys can check out, because I have links on where to get those cone yarns that aren't mill-ins, and those will do. But like I said, sock yarn will work. Any bamboo or tencel, silk's a great thing to use for this, because it gives a really good drape to your finished piece as well, especially if you're making scarves. All right, let's see. Just measured my 10-inch sampler, and the weaving width is 9.5 inches. Okay, all right, there you go. Sometimes Weavers Guilds have sales section on their website. Yes, families disposing of someone's loom may not have any idea what to ask, and some deals are possible. Yeah, Mary, that's really interesting you make that point, because about this time last year is when I bought my floor loom, and that's exactly what happened. Is somebody's mom died. She was a weaver, and she was having a yard sale and had posted the listing on Craigslist, and just said loom, and I couldn't even tell from the photo what kind of loom it was. So I went to the yard sale and got my floor loom with the bench and a warping board and boat shuttles and a bunch of other little tidbits for really, really, really good price. And yes, the weaving guilds definitely. I belong to the Triangle Weavers Guild, and they have a really, really, really good classified section. Okay. And sometimes, too, you might check. I know that, like at Earth Guild, and I think on their website, Earth Guild also has a used equipment section, but they definitely have this. When you go in, they have this gigantic bulletin board that had just little index cards of local people selling fiber equipment. They had looms and spinning wheels and carders and all kinds of equipment you can find. So sometimes if you check bulletin boards. All right. Nope. So this is it's almost the same width as this. I'm just going to keep weaving a couple more rows of this. And you can see, I wind my stuff on popsicles, or actually these are craft tongue depressors. So, but I got them at the craft section of like a big box store. You can get a gigantic pack of them for really cheap, and they're really good for winding little bits of yarn. You can see I use. Look at it. I mean, I've got Tons. Yeah, that's what I used primarily to wind, just the little small bits. And it really works with this size loom because I mean it's easy for me to pass it back and forth. Now on my bigger loom, I wouldn't try to use it because it's hard to throw this across, like a 36-inch warp for sure. All right, I'm gonna do just a couple more rows, and then I'm gonna move into that white section. But I'm wondering, I think what I'm going to do is grab another piece of this, because that'll help transition the gray and white section together a little bit. And then what I might do is within the white, add a little tiny splash of pink, just to kind of add that. Or you know what, maybe I'll add a row of that. That's what I'll do. Yeah, because that'll bring these colors back into this neutral area. All right. Good for waxing. For waxing, they're very smooth. Yes. Okay. All right. Let me... Ooh, the traffic's heavy right now. I guess school's back in session, so there's a lot more traffic outside at this time of day. Okay, let me see. I'm going to bring in, I think I am going to bring in some of that. If it's right here. If it's not here, then I'll just skip it. It might not be here. Maybe I have some here. Hold on. Nope, I don't. Wait, I'm going to check one more time on this thing. That doesn't have it. Okay, so I'm going to skip that and go straight to the white. Alright, let's see what I got here. Let's start with this. You know what? I'm going to do just a short row of that. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not even going to let it go all the way across. I'm just going to do just a short row. Because I don't want it to be like this weird stripe. And I'm making sure to overlap these ends here. Oh my God, the biggest bug just jumped on the window right in front of me. It's really frightening. Okay, let's see. And then I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to overlap right here. So I don't know if you can see what I'm doing because I have ends. I have this end and this end, and I'm going to overlap so we've got a bit all the way across. Okay, there we go. All right, see, so that has just a little bit of that green and pink that I'm picking up here and here, and a little bit down through there, but not too much, just a hair. Okay. I'm going to weave a section of white. I'm going to have to advance it in a minute because we're running out of room right here. Now I like this because, you know, whereas all these yarns have, it's, with the exception of this, has been pretty evenly spun. This yarn, excuse me, has a little bit of thick and thin to it. Wait, I'm trying to get it to focus. Maybe it won't. I think there we go. It has a little bit thick and thin. So, alright, I'm going to advance this before we get any further. So we've got a little bit of that white going there. I think at this point I'm going to add a couple of these in there. So let's see. And I want the kind of hang out just a little bit. This is a good piece. I'm just going to go with the smaller and then let the ends hang out. There we go. But what I want to do is bring to where two ends are coming out there. Let's see if I've got one that long. Here's one. Okay. Now, Charlotte, you are not late, because you know what? Today we are just doing a weaving demonstration, and we also had technical difficulties, so it worked out in your favor. Okay, what are the benefits of using 4-ply sock yarn versus 2-ply sock yarn for warp? Actually, I don't know that there's, I guess the only benefit I can think of, and by 4-ply, I guess what you're meaning is literally the plies and not the as far as we're talking. I know that there's a width that's considered, 4 or 2 or 8 or whatever. As far as the width go, it just the only difference would be depending on your DPI, your dents per inch, what size reed you're using. The thicker sock yarns would tend to have less drape if you're using it on, on a DPI, depending on the DPI. Okay, but the only other benefit would be that a 4-ply would just be stronger. I mean, you have 4 plies that are twisted together. It would add a little bit more strength, but that's not to say that a 2-ply wouldn't be good for a warp. I think a 2-ply would be just fine, honestly. As far as 4 strands plied together versus 2 strands plied together. I wouldn't go with a single ply. That's the only thing I would opt against. Like this, I mean, it might be strong enough to do a warp, but with the reed going back and forth and the tension that you put on the loom, something like a single ply like this, if you use that for a warp, it would wear the yarn down a little bit more than if you used something that was plied. All right, I'm going to check the questions. Kathy wants to know, does it make the edges heavier to weave the ends in there rather than finish off randomly in your weave? Does the surface become wavy because the ends being near the edges at the time? You know what, Kathy? I tend to kind of, most of the time, how do I put this? This one, the only reason why I had the ends in the edges here was because I'm only using this small section here for that collapsed weft. But you can see here the end. I started. I tucked the end more into the middle, so I try to vary up where the ends fall. And for the most part, with this kind of weaving, and even with the other weaving, I don't find that the ends make that big of a difference because you're not stacking as many ends within your weaving. I guess if you were stacking a lot of ends with your weaving, if you're doing just like little short rows of weaving, then I wouldn't stack the ends in the weaving. I would do, like I did here, and overlap. You know what? I'll show you in as we get along and go further along. That sometimes what I'll do is I'll do overlap the ends like this, and then just vary where those ends overlap as I'm changing yarns, and then that doesn't make that big of a difference. And usually you can pack that yarn in. It might show up as a little thicker, but for the most part, it's not gonna make that big of a difference. And if it does make it wavy, then that's kind of par for the course when it comes to art weaving. You're not necessarily going for anything really structured, stripy type of stuff. If you are, then I would just vary it up a little bit and try and make it a little more conspicuous. All right, let me check the questions. I'm using a 15-inch Cricut and doing a very open weave style, waves and open spaces. How do I keep it from shifting? I've been using fabric glue. Any other ideas? Carol. Okay, so with the open weaving, what I would do is, if you want it to not have that drift going into that space, then what I would do is like you do on your front and your back end, is do a hem stitch and kind of to get it to stay into place. That's the best way to get it to stay into place. Is just to do a little light hem stitch with the same yarn, and do it to where just a couple of yarns in. That would be the cleanest way to do it without having to use fabric glue. Does that make sense? All right, let's see. I am adding more of these, I think. Now I'm gonna, I'm gonna weave a little longer because I don't want this to be the same width as this. If you can tell, I like to vary the widths a little bit. Those are good questions, y'all. Keep asking questions. Yeah, I think, because also too, if I started to put another lock right there, I want to separate that a little bit. So I'm going to probably make this white section kind of big. But you know what I might do? I'm going to do this. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate what I was talking about a minute ago. Hold on, let's see. So sometimes what you can do, like I said, is you can just cut it, and this is the last pick that I had going across with the petal down, and I would just wrap it around that end warp yarn and tuck it back in, you know, however far in it needs to come. But in this instance, I'm going to show you the overlap method, where I just take it to the next, and then I'm going to come out right here, and I'm going to actually cut it right here. All right, so I'm going to use, look, oh, you know what, this is cool. I'm going to use this. This is actually a piece of felt. This is a felted dread, and I'm going to put a link to the felted dreads class in the comments. But this was actually a thickish single ply yarn that I felted to make these thin dreads, and it didn't work out the way I wanted it to for what I needed, but it's perfect for weaving. So you see what I'm doing here is I'm just overlapping, and it doesn't have to overlap that much. It's overlapping here. So, but throughout the weaving, let's see if that works. Well, I'm hoping this is working. Please, 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 please. Yay! Okay. Woo! Boy, howdy. Okay. Sorry about that. Oh, the internet. Wonderful or not. Okay. So, as you can see, I'm using this, I don't know if I taught, this is a piece of yarn that I felted to make a dread, and I'm going to put a link to the dreads class in the show notes. But this, I don't know, I mean, it turned out, it's not what I wanted as far as the dread goes, but it's working out great as far as the as weaving goes. So I don't know if you guys can see, it's a little thicker texture right through there. So I'm going to go back across, but when I cut this, since it's thicker, I'm going to cut it at an angle, so it's not going to give such so it'll give a little bit more tapered edge. Go around that end yarn, and then pull it across here. Okay, I'm gonna see. Okay, Sherry, with your knitter's loom that came with a clamp to hold it to the table, that's actually for when you are warping it with the warping peg. So what happens is when you clamp it, you know, when you're warping with the warping peg and you're wrapping the warp around the peg and coming back to the loom, it's to make sure that the loom doesn't shimmy across the table as you're pulling the warp yarn all the way to the edge. That's what that clamp is for. Okay. Let's see what else we're saying here. Will the locks that are sticking out retain their shape, or will they come apart and appear more ragged in the washing? I find that they kind of hold their shape. And when I wash this stuff, I'm not going to do a real vigorous kind of wash. I'm just gonna do a light hot water soak. And if I were to sell this piece, I would encourage people to dry clean on them. Honestly, just to maintain that lock structure and to. But sometimes, you know, I find that when I do the hot water soak, if this starts to come apart, that sometimes, especially with the silkier locks, sometimes when I soak it, I can kind of tease those curls back together. It's kind of like if you have curly hair, I suppose, and you get it wet, you can tease your curls back into place. or at least that's how I understand curly hair. I don't really have curly hair, so but yeah. All right, so I'm going to do a couple more rows of this thinner stuff, and thanks so much for the. Let me see if there's any more questions. Yay! Yes, yes, yes. All right, awesome. Yay! After I warp, I move the clamp to the front and go from there. Do I have to be careful sitting down so I don't bump the clamp? After I warp. After you warp, you just take the clamp off altogether. You don't have to clamp it to the table, really. I mean, actually, especially with the smaller looms, I find it, I kind of want to be able to move it around a bit. Because really, okay, so here, let me show you this. Yeah, you've got that hole right here, and that's what I would, clamp to this back edge of the table, because as I'm move these things. As I'm warping, I'm warping in this direction. So once I don't, you just take it off, because that way, I tell you what you have, and I'm not using it here because of the camera, but you can see here, that's where you kind of set it against the table. So technically, I would be setting this, if I were just not on camera, I would be setting this loom like this. Does that make sense? You see how this notch fits right there on that table? That's what that's for. So the clamp really is just for, because you have the clamp because you really have like two clamps. You have the clamp that goes here, and then you have the clamp for the warping peg that goes on the, wherever you're on the other end of the table where you're warping. Does that make sense? Like I said, we have like a 10-second delay, so I'm going to wait. Do a couple more rows of this thin stuff, and then I'm going to add some more. No, you know what? I'm going to add some more right now, because that looks like it needs some blocks. Let's see. Do one way over here on the edge. That's a long one. Way over here. One maybe not quite as long. How about this one? Oh, look, you see I missed a yarn thread right there. You know what? I'm going to leave it because that's all part of it. I don't know if you can see. Right there. See where I skipped that warp thread? And I'm going to let that be. Part of me, but it's kind of tweaking my OCD a little bit, but I'm going to live with it, because you know what? That's how it is. Okay, let's see. But my back won't allow me to weave in my lap. Oh, girl, I get it. Yeah, I've been going to the chiropractor. So, yeah, I don't like to weave in my lap either. I mean, I like to just, just on top of the table is fine for me, especially with this kind. And I mean, and then this way too. If I were weaving not on camera, I'd be like this, without all the yarn in the way, like this. I mean, I guess you guys could see it that way too, but and then that way I can move it around a little bit if I need to. But I mean, that's the beauty of the smaller looms, is that you can move it around a little bit. It hurts mine that way. Yeah, because when it's in your lap, you're kind of bent over, and that's why too. I think I have a stand for my bigger loom, because I can't. That one's not designed really for me to move around as much. And this too, I don't. This table. this table at Aldi, and it's adjustable, so I can raise and lower it. I mean, I guess lowered means that I'd be hunched over more, which would hurt my back. But this, I could raise it even higher, and it kind of gets it in a place that's a little more comfortable for me to weave. So yeah, just do whatever works. But yeah, but the clamp, it seems like, especially with this kind of weaving, I mean, the clamp I think would be would I don't know, that would annoy me because I like to move my loom around a little bit. Make the correction stand. I do a frame, I think, Sherry. Yeah, I might have to check the stand. Yeah, the stands are good. And it seems like if you guys aren't a member of this group and you're on Facebook, there's a group called on Facebook called Weaving Hacks. OMG, that somebody had made a loom stand out of like a walker, like older people use to get around. They had a way, I don't know, I think bungee cord or whatever, and it was a great stand. I'll put a link in the show notes, but that group, there's so many insanely good weaving hacks in that group. You guys should check it out. Anyway, yeah, but otherwise, yeah, I do believe Ashford would have stands. Well, all of the Richard Heddle loom companies, I believe, they all have stands for the looms. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna do just a couple more rows because this is a good size width of. Now you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna add another block right through here, even though I've woven a little section. Let's see, how about this big chunky piece? And then since I did that, I'm going to want to put, another margin of this white yarn through here. And I'm tempted to do this 2-ply yarn, but I tell you, I don't have it wound onto anything that would make it easy to weave with, so I'm going to skip it for now. All right. Now, I have a ton of this white single-ply wool yarn, and I tell you, what it is I have, every time I buy a new fleece, I'll wash just a little bit of it right when I get it and spin it up as a single to see how it spins up, just to get an idea, so I'll know what I want to use it for. And a lot of these singles are all the test spins from the fleece, and it's turned into a lot of, I have this great collection, and I love this stuff because it's a little thick and thin. It's the singles, even though, like, look, there's this one, and I don't know if you guys can catch the difference between these. This one's a little creamier, and this one is way fuzzier. So I've got all these different whites, and it's really wonderful to be able to weave with the different subtle textures. All right, let's see. I'm reading the comments again. Funny. The wooden TV table works too. Target has them. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Yeah, and that's a good height, because that's what I was using. As a matter of fact, in the Beyond the Basics class, that whole class I taught with this loom on top of a wooden TV tray. So, probably from Target. Slide under the bed, hospital type table works too. Oh, gosh, yeah, I bet it does. With the height and the tilt, dirt cheap and sturdy, with the lip front to back. Oh, Kathy, Kathy, where would we find a hospital slide into the bed table? Would it just be at like the hospital supply places, or can you find them at like thrift store type stuff? Thanks, guys. I use mine in my lap propped against the table in front of me, but I'm in a recliner, so I'm not looking down. Yeah, yeah, seriously. You know what would work really good is if you had this up against the table, and and let's see, if you had it kind of up against the table like this, and you're kind of bent over just a little bit, and if somebody was behind you rubbing your back while you weave. Yeah, I probably couldn't talk my husband into that, but anyway, it's just a thought. I use my impressive Amazon. Oh, really? Amazon. Interesting. Okay. I'm not looking down, and the only way to keep weaving from hurting my back. I get it. Yeah, the recliner sounds wonderful. You know, it's also, and I'm wondering, because I know, when I make like ceramics, when I'm at the wheel in ceramics, a lot of time being hunched over the wheel is such a pain. But at the art center, they have a wheel that's where you stand up and work, which I'm not sure. I mean, a part of me feels that how could that work, because I use so much of my body to anyway. But I'm wondering, the same type of thing. I know that they have those standing computer, like for your laptop trays, and I'm wondering, but I don't know. I think I'd get tired standing at my loom all day. Ergonomics. Ergonomics. Yeah, I've been sleeping funny, and so my back is jacked up right now. But I've been going to my chiropractor, and he's been helping out a lot. All right, I think that's going to be enough of a header for that. So I'm going to, actually for this one, I'm going to stay with the same shed that I was working on before. I'm going to give it a little clip, and I'm going to tuck it in this way. All right, and I'm going to leave it at that. Whoop. But I'm going to go around that last warp thread it'll, okay. So tuck it in around that last warp thread. All right, there you have it, guys. Beat that into place so you can see. I'll hold that up. So you can see here how that I just kind of tucked it in, and it doubled over on that. But once you start to get more, once I weave with some more stuff, you won't really notice that. All right, I'm going to switch the camera. Hold on. Send a photo of the hospital type table. Just me. There I am. All right. So I'm going to sign off for now, since we're right at about an hour from when I started. And again, I apologize for all the crazy internet stuff. Thanks for your patience, and I'm glad you guys are here with me. So anyway, so that's what I have today, and I will post show notes probably by Friday on the stuff that I mentioned that we talked about here. And there you have it. Kathy, hey, if you I'm going to look up that hospital style table on Amazon, and I'll post a link to that too if in the show notes, because that sounds pretty awesome. Anyway, so there you have it. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and And I'll keep you posted on the progress, and who knows, maybe next week we'll work on this a little more. So there you have it. And I will talk to you guys next week.